right, everyone. This is a special edition of FYI, the Four-Year Institution podcast, presented by Mongoose. I'm your host, Gil Rogers, and today our title of our session, which is actually very fitting because a couple weeks ago we had a fireside chat with Jeff Salingo. Now we are going to have a hot takes and hot wings, spitting the hot fire of truth with Beth Wolfe. So Beth, welcome. Say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So we'll do introductions and stuff in a second. I need to lay down some ground rules and some framework for our listening and our viewing audience. I think this is probably going to be the most popular YouTube version of FYI once we get started. A few weeks back, Beth and I were texting about what we were going to talk about on this podcast. And I had the brilliant / terrible idea of doing a Hot Ones challenge. If you're not familiar with Hot Ones, Google it after listening to this amazing podcast. But essentially, the gist of it is we will be talking about higher ed topics. I've got a series of questions that Beth does not know yet, and they go from kind of easier to harder. Not necessarily, that's a lie, but they're various topics that we're going to talk about. And we have ordered special orders of Buffalo Wild Wings with different flavors and levels as we go. I'm going to eat them along with you as I ask questions, just to be an active participant in this process. A couple of disclaimers for our viewing audience. We are not animals, and we are on YouTube. We're recording this from a professional environment, at least on Beth's side. I work from home, but she's in an office. So we got boneless wings, and we can have a whole separate debate on if boneless wings are actually wings. We get it. Don't want to hear it. The other is that we have wings that start with mild and go up to the hotter ranges. We're not just going to go right out of the gate with the hottest flavor, although looking at the mild block in my block of wings, mild still looks like it's going to be pretty blech too, so we'll see. But Beth, as you hopped on, you wanted to walk. I would love for you to introduce yourself. Maybe start with mild. We'll start with mild. Okay. And then we'll introduce yourself and
while I eat my mild wings.
Yeah, eat your mild wing. Then we'll do an introduction. I got to open my cutlery because I didn't do that yet.
All right.
I'm gonna get started too.
Wait, you're using you don't. Okay, Gil. I know we're skipping the debate on boneless wings.
Yeah, we're skipping it because I don't want to have that argument.
But you can't use cutlery. You still have to use your fingers. Come on.
All right, your mild doesn't have color on it. Did you just get like blank in this?
It does. It does.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So, Beth, what's your story? Tell us about yourself.
Oh my gosh. So, my name is Beth Wolfe. I'm the Executive Vice President of Enrollment Management at the University of Charleston in Charleston, West Virginia. I've been here since January of 2020. So I was here for 2 months before we started working remote because of COVID. Prior to that, I worked for several years at my alma mater, Marshall University. Started my career in K-12 education as an English and chemistry teacher. So I am a self-proclaimed freak of nature. And so now I'm here at UC. I'm coming to you today from our Innovation Center podcasting studio. Thought that would be an appropriate place to film a podcast. And so I have I brought supplies. I brought a partial roll of paper towels because I think I'm going to need those, as well as the napkins that Buffalo Wild Wings sent. So I'm stocked there. I did bring. I do have the sides of ranch, but I also brought an additional bottle of blue cheese, just in case. And then I was on the hunt for some milk because I hear that that's supposed to be helpful, right? So I stopped in our food services offices and I was like, we sell bottles of chocolate milk anywhere? And they were like, yeah, in the coffee tavern. Why? And so I explained to them what I was doing. And they said, actually, what you want is orange juice. That orange juice supposedly neutralizes the heat. So I am going to attempt, when we get higher up in the scale, they said, do the milk first to coat give a little coating to protect,
Okay.
but then chase with the orange juice. Now, honestly, this sounds completely disgusting. Chocolate milk and orange juice in rapid succession. But I have a feeling that by the end of this, I'm going to be so desperate for any kind of relief that I won't care.
There we go. So for the audience, one of the things Beth had said to me is I don't do spicy food. So
No.
we did not go to the super, super, super hot level for this because we're being a little kind. And she said, 2 flames is just as bad as 4 for her. But you're eating another bite of your mild wing. So there we go.
I'm going to eat the whole mild wing.
Mild's not bad. So just for the point of order, we're going to go mild, medium, hot. Then we're going to go hot barbecue. Then mango habanero. Although the mango is supposed to neutralize the habanero a little bit, probably the same issue with the orange juice, but I'm going to give you a break there. And then we're going to go to Nashville hot. So that's our order in which we're going to do things.
Yep.
Just as a point of order on my side, my little cheats are I have the ranch from them as well. I brought my ranch from downstairs, which is a lot emptier than I thought it was, which is not a good thing, but we'll see how it goes. And then I brought bread because bread will absorb the oils that are on your tongue and hopefully ideally help to neutralize. So for anyone who's just listening to this podcast for the first time or watching it for the first time on YouTube, this is the first time we've ever done this as the format, typically a much different format, but Beth and I always do things differently. The other item that we do have is fries, but there's a lot of black pepper on these fries. So although black pepper is not like super spicy, it's still, my fries are very, very much coated in black pepper.
Mine are not very peppery. So I'm
okay,
good.
well, you should be good. You're going to be fine. You're going to do this. So, all right.
Okay.
Grow your student community, help them stay, and encourage giving with Cadence, Higher Ed's premier engagement platform from Mongoose. Designed exclusively for higher ed by higher ed professionals, Cadence helps you engage your audiences with the perfect balance of AI and personal connection. Talk to students, parents, and alumni on their time and how they want. Empower your staff with integrated text and chat inboxes that gather all conversations in one place. Reach out to learn more about how our best-in-class service, support, and integrations have helped colleges and universities like yours have smarter conversations. From text to chat, make every message count.
So take a bite of your medium. We'll get you going on your medium. So we cleansed the palate with the mild. We're going to take a bite of the medium. And I'm going to start you off with, there we go. I'm going to start you off with a softball. You just got done, because I follow you on the Facebook machine, in addition to the LinkedIn machine, with a college fair roadshow that you were on recently. I would love to hear your stories from it. How'd it go?
So I'm shocked that you asked me about that, Gil. So it went, as well as it can for a just turned 48-year-old who hasn't been on the road in a really long time. And oh my goodness, that sauce is starting to kick in already.
There you go. And this is medium, folks.
And it's medium.
I have to take my medium while you're talking. That's
in for a ride. In for a ride. So I was in the northern part of the great state of West Virginia. Went to a couple fairs that were hosted at individual high schools. And then there was one that was like a regional fair hosted at the local sports complex. So anyway, it's interesting how some things change and some things stay the same, right? So, still some, students who have a very clear idea of what they are looking for. I did have I think for the first time, a student apologized to me that my school didn't have the program that she was looking for. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, we don't have that. And she was like, I'm sorry. And I was like, you don't need to be sorry. You have nothing to do with this. But of course, it's always, interesting to observe the various sartorial choices that the cherubs are wearing these days. A lot of stuff that was flashing back to when I was in high school in the early 90s, which is terrifying that is like cycling back. But I have such mixed feelings about the whole, college fair model because it was built pre-internet. And I feel like in many, many, many ways, it's really dated and obsolete. But living in a state with kind of low attainment of college degrees and also low, like probably some of the nation's lowest rates of like high-speed internet in homes, I can kind of see the benefit in certain areas for students to have the chance to, have a conversation with folks that they may not be able to get to either, virtually or in reality. So anyway, so it was an interesting week. I ate terribly that week. So, I'm coming back to this healthy snack, but yeah, I mean, hats off to the people who do it, weeks on end, year round, because like I said, I'm not cut out for that life on the reg.
Yeah. And we've talked, and feel free to take a sip of your milk or what have you. The medium has like a nice, like subtle burn for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm munching on my peppered fries. So I think one of the things we've always talked about, and for the viewing and listening audience, Beth and I have had this conversation probably for about 10 years at this point, which is sad as well. But, there's a place for all of the things that and the ways that students connect with schools. College fairs are still one of them. It's just finding the way to get that balance between those kind of quote unquote traditional methods of engagement, but also having to do the virtual stuff and also having to read files and also having to do this, right? And so I don't think, and if you can find it on Twitter, now X, or LinkedIn, if you go through the archives, if you can find where I've ever said completely stop doing college fairs, please share with me, because I don't think we've ever said that. But there's definitely still sometimes an overemphasis on some of those things. And I don't know if it's because we have to check the box to say we're encouraging a college going mindset, or we have to check a box because, we have to say that we were at this fair so that a board member hears that we were there, whatever, right? There's things that kind of get in the way. So while that dovetails us well into question 2. So go ahead and hop into your hot train.
Oh no, I got to do the hot one now.
Yep, yeah, you got to do the hot one now. So that's the name of the episode. I'm going to grab my hot one too. So let me take a bite.
Okay.
This is also why we did boneless, so that I can just like throw one in my mouth and go. You good? You getting there? So you mentioned pre-internet, right? Was the college fair, original time frame. We're now post-COVID, quote unquote post-COVID. What's different now than pre-COVID when it comes to connecting with students? What are some of the things that have actually changed now that we've exited this global pandemic mindset?
Yeah, so I think one thing that we're seeing is that COVID, so for all the like people, wanting to like, I want to be alone and, let me do my thing and don't call me on the telephone. I think COVID showed people that there's like a happy medium, right? So they don't want to be completely isolated like we were during COVID. And so I think just seeing people appreciate the power of like direct connection and being able to like talk to a person and usually in person is a good thing. I think there's still some of that awkwardness and I don't know how much of that is like generational and how much of that is like the still kind of coming out of COVID kind of thing where, because how many of us had those meetings or class sessions where we're like, my camera isn't working, right? Like, so that I didn't have to like look like I was being engaged in that session. And so I think there's still a little bit of that awkwardness. But I think it's really post-COVID, people are seeing like the importance of connection with other people.
You are doing extremely well for someone who doesn't eat hot things, because even this hot level is like under my tongue now. Like,
right?
What are you gonna do, Gil? And so I think just to add to that, and a few weeks ago, by the time this episode is released, we had released conversations from the NACAC conference where we had recorded interviews
Yeah.
on site with people. And Carlos Cano from Georgian Court University had really good insight around how students still want to hear about the school, right? They want to know what majors you have, et cetera, but they also want to tell them about themselves, right? They want to tell you about themselves, and they want them to know they want you to know them. I keep getting things backwards, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They want you to know who they are, right? They want to showcase themselves differently than they have been in the past, right? And so I think, to your point from the original, question about the college fair circuit, the interactions I feel change now than they did before, right? Where there's hopefully more substance to those conversations because they are in person. And so the value of those in-person interactions carry more weight than maybe they did prior to the pandemic. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that before I make it eat a hotter wing.
Right. I mean, I think, like, thinking about the conversations that I had last week, it was just last week. Oh my goodness. Just last week. I can see, like, thinking about that, there were students who were very eager to, like, have a conversation about not just what they had in mind in terms of what they wanted to study, but like why they wanted to do that. Like, so, kind of asking the question, are you looking for a particular academic program? It wasn't just, oh, it's this because, and then they were telling a little bit more of their story, which, now that I think about it, is not what the norm was before. So I think that shift has happened. And I think a lot of that is generational. And this generation, I think, cares a lot about the why of what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think that's a big piece. Is before it was walk around the fair with you're cheating with that milk, by the way.
I just did my research, Gil.
There you go. Fair enough. Before COVID canceled all the college fairs, everyone was walking around carrying papers with what's your average SAT, what's your average GPA, what are your top 3 majors, are you ranked, right? And they were filling those things out because they had to. Now these interactions hopefully again carry more weight because they're the absence makes the heart grow fonder in some respects, right? And it makes that process, and just the generational difference of the students who are coming through having a different mindset on the value of higher education, what value even really means, right, is a big part of that.
Yep.
So we're going to go to hot barbecue next.
Hot barbecue. Okay.
If memory serves me correctly, hot barbecue is definitely not a fun one to have. Fortunately, I got lucky. I got a very small one. So here's my small one.
Yeah, this one's not so small.
Uh-oh. This is where you zoom in on Beth's face and say, how are we doing? That's not bad. That's more barbecue than hot, I think, for right now. So
for now.
What? The slow burn.
That's the thing. It doesn't always kick in immediately.
Yeah, this one doesn't feel like it's going to have a slow burn. This one's going to be a letdown for me. I'm willing it into existence that it's not.
Okay. All right.
So,
yeah.
Discover future applicants, delight enrolled students, and amplify fundraising performance with our Cadence engagement platform's live chat and chatbot solutions. Designed exclusively for higher ed by higher ed professionals, Cadence helps you engage your audiences with the perfect balance of AI and personal connection. We leverage proactive outreach and anticipate common roadblocks, knowing the most significant decisions often start with the smallest conversations. Our powerful AI ensures instant support and is smart enough to know exactly when to hand off to a staff member. And if nobody is available, it allows for easy follow-up. Effortlessly integrated with your website, we proudly feature an industry-leading 85% self-service rate. It's never been easier to make every message count.
Outside what we've spoken about so far, what is the biggest challenge that you face in your role?
I mean, right now, staffing, and that is not what used to be my biggest challenge, but right now my biggest challenge is staffing. And there's a lot of factors in that. I mean, not least of which is one that's very kind of specific to where I am. So I'm in Charleston, West Virginia. We're the capital of West Virginia. We are about 40 to 50 miles east of Huntington, West Virginia. There's an interstate that runs from Huntington to Charleston. So a lot of people will live in Charleston and work in Huntington and vice versa, except right now there are two totally major construction projects between those two places. And one of them does not seem to be making any progress whatsoever, but because of all of the construction, and then there's like constantly accidents. And so nobody wants to do that commute right now because it's brutal. So I've had some people who like live west of here that got jobs, they left me to get a job closer to their home, so they didn't have to have this commute. And the thing is, as we were kind of just talking about with the college fair, there are some things in my office that can be done remotely, but there are some things that cannot, like you cannot give a campus tour remotely. You have to be here on campus to give the campus tour. So, so there's some limitations for us in terms of what we can do, which jobs can be remote or partially remote. And so, and that's what a lot of people are looking for these days. They're looking for jobs that can be remote. So, so it's been a challenge. We have some opportunities in my office. If anybody would like to come work in Charleston, West Virginia, send me an email and I will send you the link to our job postings. They're on our website, ucwv.edu. But yeah, and it's hard. And then I think the other thing is, obviously, this is a challenging time in higher ed. And if you are, kind of that newly minted college graduate looking for a job and you read the news and you go, would I really want to go work at a college? Is that a good idea? I don't know if that's a good idea. And so I think that's a challenge too, is that our industry is in some tough times, and that can be hard to convince people that this is a line of work that you want to go into.
I think, and so I'm gonna have you hop to the mango habanero while I share my thoughts on that piece.
Okay.
I'm gonna love watching your face as you do that. But one of the things that's interesting is like I've heard a lot of folks doing like hybrid work from home / on campus things, and I think for admissions counselor there are opportunities for that where you don't need every admissions counselor to be on campus every day for greeting families or giving tours or what have you. You can rotate who does that. How's that flavor treating you, by the way? Is it a good one?
Sounds so good.
There you go. So I'd love to hear creative ideas you have for supporting people and who might be, you're jumping right to the orange juice on that one. Supporting people, and and obviously not everything works for everyone, but so what are some ways that you support kind of hybrid opportunities for people, if at all?
Yeah. So the tip of my tongue is burning right now. Let's see, what was I talking about? Yes. Ways to support people. So, I've just always kind of had the philosophy of supporting people in their role and, respecting their time as like humans. So Gil, are you all right?
I'm laughing because I can clearly see that you're having a hard time with formulating your thoughts.
I am. I think it's important to, respect people and respect their time. So, one thing with admissions, right, is if you're doing travel, you're doing a lot of things in the evening, you're doing a lot of things on the weekends. Most of our admissions folks are salaried, so they're not entitled to overtime or comp time. But, is it really right or fair to expect them to, work 3 evenings of a week and then be gone all weekend and then just be like, oh, well, that's part of the job? Like, I've never been okay with that. I think that, people expect to have lives outside of work. So I've just always been a big proponent of, things like giving them flexible work days, or, if they're on the road, and they have evening fairs. Don't start your day at 8:30, right? Like start your day at 11 or whatever is, reasonable to do. I do think, if you can find a way to do some hybrid, whether that's like that you can work from home, one day a week, or you can do some kind of rotations where, maybe like one person gets to work from home week 1 and then another person gets to work from home week 2. I think the challenge is being equitable, right? And like not setting up a situation where it looks like, oh, well, you let him work from home all the time because you like him better than everybody else. Like you have to be careful about things like that. But that's, to me, I think that's always been part of my approach as a manager. So that's not necessarily a new thing that I'm considering. So did that answer your question? I feel like I kind of
I ate
over the place
I ate the
because I'm
habanero
distracted
one
by my
partway
mouth.
through. Yeah, I ate the habanero one partway through. So I think that one of the things that that you mentioned is like the mindset shift, right? I think the mindset used to be tough luck. You have to work 9 days, 10 days in a row because you had a regional visit, you had your on-campus visit. Oh yeah, that mango doesn't do anything. So you have that like mindset shift that a lot of people now I think are getting. I think one of the lasting COVID pieces is just the work-life balance element, whether you're offering hybrid work from home or not, or flex time, or any of those sorts of pieces. Those are the things that kind of come to mind when we're talking about the different ways to better support our staff.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that and was last season on FYI, I interviewed Tej Matil from Enroll ML, and he was talking about the types of people that we hire for admissions roles has changed over time, right? It used to be pre-COVID, the college fair people, who's outgoing, who's enthusiastic, who can you put in front of people and have talk to people. And now, as we've gotten more data, as data driven, we have more insights into data. And because of COVID, we had people on Zoom and all that sort of fun stuff. There was it's kind of a shift in the requirements and the need. And if you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing the watering in my eyes from just the buildup of all of this. You have all of that kind of, the changing the job of the admissions counselor over time. We still hire in a lot of ways that energetic, enthusiastic, outgoing person, but then half the time we put them behind a desk and make them look at spreadsheets, right? And that's just a different skill set that you have to hire for. So, and I'm gonna make you hop in now and do the Nashville hot.
Okay.
As a manager, how are you got to take your bite before I ask a question.
Well, hold on, but I wanted to say something about that whole, like we send them on the road and then stick them behind a desk. So, one of the things that you can do is separate those into different jobs, right? Mm-hmm. Like, like there's nothing that says that your person who's, your face, the one that's going out to fairs and, doing your campus visits and visiting schools and that kind of thing, has to be the person crunching numbers and checking, doing the app stuff. Like, you could separate those out because they are kind of two different skills. And, so hire different people to do that. I am so scared of this one.
I mean, honestly, if you made it through mango,
it's so dark though. It's like, that's fine.
You'll survive. Here we go. Initial reaction.
Okay.
So and to your last point there, like, who on your team, you can even like little things, like they could be outgoing, enthusiastic, but the people who you put on stage at an open house are a lot of times different than the people you have talk to small group of families, right? Because different skill sets. They might be energetic and enthusiastic, but they might be terrible in front of large groups, right? And so the skills you have, give people the jobs and the responsibilities that play to their strengths, right? I think that's a big piece. So speaking of data, that's one of our favorite topics to talk about. Is we have all this data, yet we make gut decisions, right?
Yep.
Now that our guts are on fire, how can we encourage people to become more data driven while not losing the humanity of the admissions process? And I have to eat my Nashville hot now.
Yes, you do. I mean, in some respects, if I had an answer to that question, I'd be able to like sell it and be living on the beach somewhere. So that's a hard one, Gil. That's a really hard question. I think so much of it depends on, I really think so much of it depends on having good leadership and people being good leaders, right? So are we doing what we say that we're doing? And so I just started reading a new book, Whatever It Is, I'm Against It. And it's a new book about resistance to change in higher education. And in like the very first chapter, it's talking about the author at his institution. They were going to look into whether faculty research really did like improve instruction in the classroom. And then they didn't want to do the research. So here we are, like a group of people saying we depend on research and we depend on data, except when we don't want to depend on research and data, right? Because, I might get an answer that is going to make me change this thing that I want to do. So I think all of that really comes down though to good leadership. So if you have courageous leaders on your campus, they will foster that, and they will allow you to do things that are kind of against the status quo or against, conventional wisdom, because, hey, we have evidence here to show that this is a reasonable thing to try to do. But I think, unfortunately, in higher education, there are some places that lack courageous leadership. And so when you, and it sounds counterintuitive, right? Like it sounds completely counterintuitive to say that it's cowardly to not follow the data and to go with your gut decision. But that is because that's so reliant on past experience, right? And what has worked in the past. And so that just becomes the like standard approach or the standard thing to do. So I think that for us to do that, but I also think, good leadership is grounded in humanity. So you're not going to, if you have good leadership, you are not going to lose the humanity of your work, because by definition, good leadership has to honor humanity in my book.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting about the whole, it's interesting about the whole not wanting to do the research piece, because, any good marketer will say, you never ask a question you don't want the answer to. Right. And so if you don't want to find out, you don't ask. Right. And so I think there's a certain level of, if you kind of know the answer. And so if you don't want to, substantiate that. Right. And that's a challenge to take on. Right. And so I appreciate that perspective. And I also think that Nashville hot was kind of a letdown as far as the temperature goes. Nashville is not hot, apparently.
It really wasn't. I'm gonna actually polish that one off with a little dab of ranch.
There you go. Do it up. And then need you to hop backwards into a mango habanero for our last question, because it's on the theme of going back. So I'm gonna have my mango habanero. You're gonna have your mango habanero. Oh, drink your milk.
All right. I'm telling you, it's helping. My husband is not going to believe that I made it through this without weeping.
So take 3 mango habaneros.
I left the rest of them in the office.
I think that's the one that at least delivers a little bit on the heat for the most part. Shouldn't have gone easy on you is the lesson that I'm learning. So speaking of going back to the mango habaneros, what keeps you coming back? What keeps you going day to day in your role in staying in this crazy world of higher education? And you got to do it. You got to do it without drinking milk or orange juice. You just got to go.
Oh man. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. This one's getting me. This one's getting me. Okay. So, what keeps me coming back every day? Other than, I have bills to pay. I mean, no, it's so funny. I was having this conversation earlier this week. Like, nobody grows up saying, I would like to work in college admissions, right? Like, that is not something that anybody dreams of being when they grow up. And I had such an unusual path into where I am now. So I was not, I wasn't a campus tour guide when I was a student. My career started in K-12 education, and I kind of happened to find myself in higher ed. And then I kind of just happened to, the institution had a director of recruitment position open, and I said, I think I can do that. And so I applied for it. And then these like 17 years later, here I am, vice president of enrollment management. And, I kind of like sometimes how really did that happen? Like, it's just kind of bizarre if you draw it out on a map. But I really, really love what I do. And I think because it is, I mean, there are a lot of things that I love about it, but I think one of the things is that, in my introduction, I said I used to teach English and chemistry, which is a really weird combination. But I kind of feel like that's enrollment management, because you have to have that analytical data side, like my chemistry brain, but you have to have that humanity side, which is my English brain. And so getting to do, both of those things regularly and not having to live solely in one area or the other is something that I really enjoy. And then I think, ultimately, I think about when we have commencement and, I'm standing in the wings, like pointing students where to go, like you come this way, you go that way. And then there's, always that one that stops to, give me a hug and say, thank you for that thing that you did, whatever it was. And honestly, if it never happened to me again, the times that it has happened have made it worth it. So.
Awesome. Well, we will leave it there. And now is when I break it to you that the recording actually stopped. We have to do this all over again. Just kidding. Beth, we appreciate you taking the time and putting your body through the ringer, having come back from a college fair circuit, eating a bunch of bad food to now eating a bunch of probably even worse food. We appreciate your time. Before I say goodbye and close us out, what are there your parting words and your thoughts for people in the industry, and also how can people get in touch and stay in touch with you after they listen to this episode on their favorite podcasting platform?
Sure. So my piece of advice, really, and this is to anybody, no matter what they do, is be true to yourself and be who you are, and don't be afraid of being that person. It's not for everybody, and that's okay, because not everybody likes the hottest wings that there are, but some people do. And so, so just, I joke a lot about how I'm kind of like a very specific bourbon, and not everybody likes bourbon. And some people, find me, I don't know, just challenging, I guess, in some ways. But those aren't my people, and that's okay. So just, be true to yourself and don't be afraid to be you. And if you want to get in touch with me, let's see, on X, I am, I don't know, at Beth_Wolfe, I think. On Instagram, I'm B-dubs. Ironic, right?
Ironic, B-dubs.
Yeah. And my email address is Elizabeth Wolfe, all one word, E on the end of Wolfe at ucwv.edu.
Awesome. And for our podcast listeners, we'll put all those channels of connecting with Beth in our episode notes, make it very easy for you. So Beth, we appreciate your time and again, your stomach, and we will see everyone next time on FYI.